JB here, 2:43 on this August 2nd, 2024. Just really quick, talk about some of the trades I made, some of the things I'm looking at as we head into this weekend. I'm sure this weekend's gonna be filled with tons of recession headlines, right? I mean, that's kind of what you're hearing over the last couple hours. The jobs report coming in worse than expected. So unemployment rate uptaking to 4.3 versus 4.1 estimates. And then you hear all this chatter around the backward revisions, right? So normally when you get the jobs report, they'll revise the previous 2 months, and a lot of times that kind of gets swept under the carpet, right? Like most people don't look at those numbers; they're just looking at the headline numbers for July. Like for example, this employment report, people just look at July, but then they'll go and do revisions to June, right? And May. And then so folks are looking at it and say, wow, they've downward revised like the last 10 months, right? And then, that it creates a story. And, probably there's some credibility there in regards to, yeah, I mean, that's, uh, I said on the watch list this morning in my rants earlier, it's like the Fed, when inflation was hot, everybody was worried about inflation. It was almost like the Fed was trying to get the U.S. economy to go into a recession, and thankfully or luckily, they were able to raise rates just enough, get the inflation to kind of cool off, and now we're in a situation where people are thinking maybe they should have cut rates earlier in the year because we might be in a spot where we might get to a recession. So that's kind of I think that's a little of most of what's going on today. Of course, Intel with some rough earnings, its biggest decline in many years. So that's some of it as well. But just pretty remarkable. And then you look at the VIX. I mean, the VIX, it almost tested 30 today. Just pretty remarkable. So hopefully this is kind of the, uh, you know, I don't even know how to put it, but hopefully this is kind of the reset we needed. Markets can find some footing next week, and then we can go from there. If not, then you're going to hear the talking heads, especially over the weekend, because there's going to be a lot of recession talk over the weekend. They're going to say, "Oh, this is the start of a correction, a bear market." You'll have the Burry people of the world who are going to say, "Oh, this is a big market crash," you know, and eventually it might come to fruition, right? Because very easy to be to have 2020 vision in the rearview mirror, but we'll have to see how that all plays out. So anyway, so just a couple of names, and so first, I did some put hedges yesterday. I talked about the SPY breaking 544, then 541, and I went and got the uh, Broadcom puts, then I got the ServiceNow, the Now puts, and then you know it's 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 tough. You look at these names; they're great fundamental names, but I went and got some Palo Alto puts, and you would think that name would hold up pretty well considering what went on with CrowdStrike and so on and so forth. But those all paid out today. So the good thing is it kind of offsets positions I'm in on the long side, and not only that, made some nice profits on the downside. So you take a look at Broadcom was yesterday. uh, I, I I actually added some calls today and closed some out for 100% for a bounce, and it's still sitting here 143. There's still some time, so hopefully, we get a bounce into the end of the day. I can lock the rest of those in. Then the service now, and I was talking about it yesterday, pretty much right around this time, or maybe like 1:30 or so, about the implied moves on service now and Palo Alto. It was like less than 2% implied move going into today, which if you don't think there's going to be anything going on, and we had the jobs report this morning, you would think the implied move would be higher, but it wasn't. So I went and got some speculative puts on those names, and they paid out handsomely. Um, Again, so I always say when I get these hedge puts in some of these names, it's not like I don't think that ServiceNow or Palo Alto is not going to head higher over the coming years and months. I just think they offer a great risk reward on downside, especially when the market's selling off. So luckily able to add some of those puts, close them out, make some good money on both of those names. Palo Alto, it was sitting at $300. So, I had the 300 puts at 17 cents. I'm like, how can I not close this out? And then on the flip side is like it seemed like folks were in there bidding it up. So it would not break $300. So I close them out. I'm not sure I'll revisit today, but maybe next week if there's some more volatility in the market. So that's the overall market. You start looking at, the S&P under its 50-day moving average. So that's something that's going to have to be worked on over the next coming days. But just a horrible day today. Like I said, the VIX almost up to 30. And then the other, I always talk about the silver lining in the market. Typically over the last couple of weeks, it's been the small caps. But today it's pretty much it's negated that bull flag breakout, right? So I talked about the 1250 move from 427 or so all the way up to 445, 450, and it's been negated today, and it's right at its 50-day moving average, 207 and change. It's bouncing a little bit, so hopefully that holds right there, and things can get constructive into next week. But kind of disappointing there on the small cap. So individual names. Why don't I have all this stuff up here? Oh, so first I'll talk about Twilio. So Twilio is a great name, So it's a Kathy Woodstock, so I don't want to. Yeah, I shouldn't put that. I should separate that in regards to talking about a stock, right? Kathy Woodstock, bullish, but great name. Reported earnings after the close yesterday. Best at estimates, getting some big upgrades this morning, and then it's early this morning, and it's just been melting higher. 60-50 at 12 o'clock, and then it just seems like there's just a magical hand bidding the stock up all day. So I went and got the 63 lottos. I was actually looking at 62s. Both of those paid. Locked most of my 63 lotto calls in. Sitting here at 62.50. So hour and 10 minutes into the close. Hopefully I can lock the rest in for a couple 100%. I was actually looking for strikes into next week, but I'm just, it's who knows what's going to happen this weekend. You have all the geopolitical stuff and the assassinations of these leaders in Hamas and whatever. You don't know what's going to go on this weekend, so it's almost, unless I had a ton of call positions on, maybe I would look to get a hedge, or I'd look vice versa, maybe get some later dated strikes on Twilio, but I'll probably just sit on my hands for now. But nice trade there. Um, Take a look at Square, and I was looking for some inexpensive speculative calls into the end of the day on Square. The stock was green in the pre-market. Then we had the jobs report; it sold off, and then it's starting to bounce. Really like this name, and I talked about it on the watch list this morning. Dorsey's saying he's going to disrupt the Bitcoin mining, right? And if he's able to do that, and of course, when you have a company that's uh, you know, at the size of Block, they have the capabilities to disrupt sectors if they want to do that. So at some point, I'll look for some inexpensive calls there. Fiverr start to it's 22.22 this morning, right at the open, and it's traded off from losses into the green. Still have my September strikes. Have some speculative August 30 calls that I close out on Wednesday for to cover costs. At some point, I'll revisit to add some positions there. And I think that's about it. I'm trying to think of some of the other names. It's going to be tough into the weekend. I think the longer this goes on, the bigger the spotlight's going to be on Jackson Hole, and no one's really talking about it, but that's going to be the big thing. And I said it a couple days ago in one of the rants. Ben Bernanke, he talked about one of the they had all these analogies and acronyms for all these Fed policies that's happened over the years. Project Twist, even a you know the, they there's been so many things that have happened at Jackson Hole that I think that Powell's going to use this as an opportunity to paint the picture for the rest of the year. So I think it's going to be really important. So hopefully the market can find some footing. There's it's almost like I put it on FinTwit before. It's almost like if CNBC came out with their markets in turmoil episodes coming out after the close, I think markets can be up. Futures can be up 1-2% on Monday, but not gonna not gonna chance it. But anyway, that's it, folks. Let's have a great weekend. Hopefully next week is a good week as well. Rock and roll.